Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with Liz Holtby. She's the Vice President Operation at Meeting Escrow and the President of Site Canada. We're going to speak about risk management, and we are going to speak about something extremely important that every business owner should be aware of and be using to lower their risk. Enjoy my conversation with Liz. Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with Liz Holtby. She is a giver. She's training a lot of the students, although she's taking now a break because she's heading Site Canada for 2022. And her daily job is to take care of the operation of Meeting Escrow. And you're out for a great ride because what she's doing is something I wish I would have benefited from when I had my own corporate event agency. Ladies and gentlemen, Liz Holtby.
Thank you, Eric. Thanks for the opportunity to have me on. Nice to be here.
Great pleasure. I think it's important that we hear from you, not only as an educator, but also with the financial risk management and, of course, what you do with Site. So I don't know where we can start with. Maybe you want to start with your journey, how you joined the industry, and what's the story of Liz Holtby?
Oh, thanks. Well, it's interesting when you ask me what is my journey. This is how I always start when I introduce myself to a new class that I'm going to teach, because they want to know, who is this teacher and does she really know what she's talking about? Is she qualified to be here and teach us? So I'll sort of give you the same spiel almost that I graduated from university in Toronto many years ago. Got a degree in commerce, but it was a specialty in hospitality and tourism. And it was during that 4-year program, which I'm not sure how many courses you take in 4 years, but I think there's somewhere around 40, that I took one course in meetings and event management or something to that nature. And the teacher, the professor, was a gentleman that many of us in the industry know. He is an icon, and his name was Duff Shaw. And he inspired so many of us in the class. You know, he taught us about what incentive travel was, what meetings and conferences were, because he taught the class part-time, and he was working for a major insurance company doing meetings and events. And it was sort of like, that's what I want to do when I'm teaching my students. I want to inspire them like Duff inspired me. And so it was that one course out of 40 that led me down the path of, incentive travel, meetings and conferences, and going down that road. So when I talk to students and I tell them my journey, I hope that they're sitting there being the person that I was when I was a student in Duff's class. So that's how I got into the industry many, many years ago. And I haven't had, that many employers during my tenure in the industry. And it is a small industry. People move around, but they kind of stay together. And then in 2008, I left the industry because of the crisis, because of the recession, and worked part-time for a marketing company for about three-ish years. Then got back into the incentive travel industry, and then joined Meeting Escrow, which was like a new startup. And I could still kind of dibble and dabble in meetings and events, but this was finance and this was risk management. I thought, wow, wouldn't that be really interesting? So that's really my story.
That's a great story. When you joined Meeting Escrow?
I joined in 2018. The company started in 2015, 16. And it was started by a gentleman by the name of Grant Snyder. And he had been in the industry. He was part owner of a major DMC in Canada. Sold his shares, started Meeting Escrow, and then I joined him on the operations side so he could focus on the sales side in 2018.
That's awesome. Now, just going back to 2018, you said that you didn't have many employers in your life. So what triggered the fact that suddenly you want to join a startup?
Yeah, that's a really excellent question. I've known Grant for years. He and I are very similar in nature and personality. And so we were attracted from a business perspective. And, we used to get together every 6 months or something for like sort of coffee chats. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned, the industry is really small. And so you gain a lot of wonderful friendships and relationships. And it was through that that Grant reached out to me in the early 2018 and said, I can't do it all basically, and I need some help, and would you be interested? And I thought, what a great opportunity to do something a little bit different. Mm-hmm. I love finance, operations is my forte. And so managing, once you've finished a program, it's not just the execution, it's the final reconciliation. It's making sure you've got the deposits. Like dotting the I's and crossing the T's is truly what finance is about. And so the fact that I could stay connected in the industry, but sort of move over to something a little bit different was really attractive to me. And I'll say that the majority of people in this industry are in this industry because they're creative people. They care about, I'm simplifying things, but the color of the tablecloths and what that team building activity is going to look like. That's not me. I am completely the execution person. I'm not overly creative, but give me a task and I'll make it happen. And so that's why many people in our industry would kind of turn their nose up to finance. Like, why would you want to do that? But that's me. So it was really marrying a wonderful industry, which is our hospitality, meetings and events, MICE industry, with, the finance side of things, risk management.
It's fascinating to me that even if the freelance, talking about the gig economy, and they said in the US in 2027, the majority of people working will be freelance. But even if you're on your own, or if you have a team of 30 people, it's fascinating to me that people in our industry are not really focused on the financial side. They say it's not my forte, or they're not excited by that. But there's also the risk of having your own business and working with incentive trip abroad. So could you explain a little bit what Meeting Escrow is doing? Because I wish I would have benefited from this type of services when I had my own agency.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll give you an analogy because I feel like a picture paints 1,000 words. So there's a company, an insurance company in the US, who ran into difficulties. They had paid all their deposits in advance, and they were en route. The meeting planner was en route to do the pre-con meeting. So I'm not sure how far in advance, but let's say 5 days before the event was actually happening. And he was in the airport to catch his flight to go to the destination and do the pre-con meeting. And he found out that his destination management company, the key player when you're executing a program, had gone bankrupt. And so he not only was out a lot of money because the deposits had been paid already, but also when he got there, he didn't have a destination management company to execute his non-hotel components of the event. And so he later this company later became a client of Meeting Escrow. So I think that kind of gives you an analogy of sort of what problem we solve. And that is basically that there's a variety of different financial solutions, but during the pandemic and during any kind of, crisis, whether it's SARS, whether it's the recession, whether it's COVID, clients are concerned, especially now, about the advanced deposits that they're paying to their vendors. And so those advanced deposits go into an escrow trust account, and the beneficiary of that escrow account is both client and vendor. And it's mandated by an escrow agreement, which is signed by both parties. And to try and just simplify it, it basically outlines when do those deposits get put into the escrow trust account, and when do those monies get paid out? And that's basically it. And so it obviously helps the clients very much, but it also helps the vendor for a variety of reasons, because just as easily as a vendor could go bankrupt, a client could go bankrupt. And so if that were to happen, the funds go back to the other party. That's one. Secondly, from a vendor's perspective, in this market where clients are a little bit concerned about potentially about the viability of a vendor or of the supplier, they can say, we accept funds in escrow. We are working with Meeting Escrow. And so when you're competing against another vendor, this is an opportunity to acquire business from that perspective.
Absolutely. Remembering again, when I had my own agency, I had really three type of risk when it comes to financial. The first one is exactly the one you said. What if the DMC go bankrupt? Which is, by the way, one of the way I was lowering that risk is that if I work with a DMC in Canada, and I'm actually speaking with the DMC. If I use the DMC for hotel, I also tell the hotel that I'm working with that DMC so that they get their commission, but I would pay directly the hotel. It was explained from the beginning. So worst case scenario, I would still have the hotel paid and the rooms paid. The second one really is also the exchange rate. I would do something in I don't know, I would do something in Vietnam or do something in Zimbabwe, going from Belgium, and obviously euro dollar difference. So I was really going to the bank and negotiating for the client, or they have their own financial department, to basically have a call on the currency so that I was covered with that. But the third thing, which I see a lot of advantages in what you're offering, is being a small agency and having to compete with large one. I put all the process together so that even if I die, most extreme case, the program would still go on. In this case, if you would have existed at that time, I could say, listen, the money is on an escrow account, so worst case scenario, you cover. Is that also a selling point for the people that are working with you?
Absolutely. So we can, you've obviously looked at our website, because one of our solutions, which can piggyback on any one of our other solutions, the escrow solution we just talked about, but there's also the secure vendor program or the secure vendor payment. So what happens there is money sits in escrow or in trust, but we have 20 different currencies of trust accounts. So Canadian, US, and 18 others. So we work with clients that have programs in various countries around the world, and we take in the money, and whether it's US or Canadian, and we exchange with instructions from our client. We exchange it right away, and then it sits in that foreign currency trust account. So there is no fluctuation of the currency. And I'll tell you that back in my event planning days, in my operations days, when I worked for a third-party agency, we did a program internationally, and the money came to us from the client. I don't remember if it was Canadian or US, and it sat in that Canadian or US account, bank account. And then it came time to pay the vendors, and we did the exchange. And in the end, for this program, I think it cost the client an extra $20,000.
Yeah.
Well, that isn't the agency's, that isn't our fault. However, it really takes a hit on the bottom line or on their budget. And so if Meeting Escrow had been around back then, the client could have sent the money to us in whatever it was, the US or Canadian. We would have exchanged it right then and there and said to the client, okay, this is what is going to be sitting in the Euro trust account or whatever the currency is, so that they know that that's what the exchange rate is, and they don't have to worry about the fluctuation. And in fact, we have a program happening in 2024 for a client. It's actually sitting in US. That's what was agreed upon. But I'm often getting emails from that client to say, the currency or the exchange is going up, or can you check the rate right now? And so we're sort of communicating. Although we don't advise what to do, we do sort of have a pulse on what's happening with the exchange rate. Right. And then as soon as our client says, let's buy, then we buy, and it goes into the foreign currency trust account.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I would say as well, just on that one for the currency, especially if you have a program in 1 or 2 years, in terms of cash flow, it's also probably interesting to have some kind of option to have the right to buy at a certain exchange rate. But no, I totally get it.
Absolutely. And you have the ability to take, screenshots and look at what was the exchange in the last year, or the two years before, and sort of where is it heading. And so you simply provide your clients with the information that you are aware of, and let them make the decision. I'd like to just hit on a point that you just mentioned, which was, the ability to work with large companies, clients directly, but also independent meeting planners who for a variety of reasons, either don't want to manage the money and don't want that worry, or it could be a third-party agency that uses it as a selling tool to say, we're working with Meeting Escrow, or we're working with an escrow company, and it's sort of assurance for the client that they're working with.
It's a selling point for a business owner, for a small business owner, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in your career now, Liz, you are giving back. You gave back many years as an educator. You take a break now because you're volunteering with SITE. So I'd like to talk about both. And first, maybe about SITE, what you see now, the industry is coming back. Personally, I remember doing the first impact study of an incentive trip that was with Sony Music back in 2000 in Belgium. What are the tools you're using now to basically demonstrate? And obviously, we are preaching to the choir here, but demonstrate the impact of an incentive trip for corporations.
Well, it's always an opportunity wherever you are, especially at a dinner party when you're speaking to someone. Oh, what do you do? They want to hear more and more and more because incentive travel does offer that wow factor, and especially because we're coming out of COVID and a pandemic time. I think incentive travel can't be any more important than it is now. Get people away from their screens, out of their desk, connecting with people in a different country. I think that the importance of getting people together and bringing back that sense of community and camaraderie and motivation, and that's what incentive travel is all about. It's about providing experiential moments that they can't do on their own, and we all know that that's the value, or that's what it provides. But there's no more time that's more important than now than to be offering those motivating trips.
Absolutely. And especially now that people are working hybrid, few days in the office,
That's
the rest
right.
at home. Yeah, you're building now. Is this something that you see now more demand for the future? It's coming back in terms of people requesting incentive trip again?
So I think so. And the reason I can't be definitive about it is because I'm not in that space anymore, but I can just see what's happening in our business. But I'm also, as my role with SITE, it's all about the Society of Incentive Travel Excellence, right? Meeting Escrow is an unusual, or a unique, I shouldn't say unusual, it's a unique sector in the industry, but the majority of people that I communicate with are the hoteliers, are the DMCs, are the clients, are the third-party agencies. And what I see is they are so busy, and we're having challenges getting staff to fill those roles. So people are doing 2 and 3 jobs, or 2 and 3 roles within their company in order to get that incentive program off the ground. So to answer your question, it would be yes, that it's definitely coming back. And it's like what it was maybe 6 months, a year ago. It's all about cancellations and rebookings. Now it's actual execution and planning for the future.
I love to hear that. That's great. And to your point of getting more resource in the future, a lot of people were furloughed or left the industry. The next generation is coming. As an educator, and I know this year you're not educating students, but what have you noticed in terms of the motivation of the new generation to join the industry? And what is different in your experience that it was 5-6 years ago?
Well, 5-6 years ago, or at least when I started teaching, which was about 4 years ago, I used to, tell them all these great things about the industry, but I couldn't find them jobs because there weren't jobs to be found. It was just really, really difficult to crack into the industry. For my students and graduates, they so badly wanted jobs and they wanted to get into it, but the industry or the companies out there, they want these students or these graduates to have experience. Well, it's a bit of a yin and a yang. Like, how can I get experience if they won't give me the opportunity? So that was the conversation 4 years ago. Now it's about, there's so many jobs out there, and the students are now being able to, I think, pick and choose and really do some research on what do they want. And many of them have changed their focus into more of a, sustainability, CSR, charity type roles, is what I'm seeing. So, it's, what I told them last year, because that was in the heart of COVID, I said, you guys are in a perfect place to be going to school right now, because this was first year and the students I teach, it was a 2-year program. So I said, when you graduate next April, which is, last month, I said, there will be a plethora of opportunities for you out there to get jobs. And I can see through LinkedIn, some of the students that, connected with me, I can see, when you get a job, you can see when they're, there's a congratulations on LinkedIn. So I'm looking forward to getting back into the classroom and being able to, place students, because I actually will know them because of this hiatus here. It's a little more challenging, but I just so badly want to marry great graduates with this industry.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, but it's true. Good thing, bad thing, you never know. They are studying at the worst time, but they're coming out at one of the greatest time in terms of opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you very adamant speaking about the in-demand skills in the industry. So can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Yes. So when I speak to the students, or when I speak to young people and they ask me, or I maybe they don't ask me, I share with them, what are those skills that you should be developing or you should be focusing on to make you marketable and make you really successful in this industry. And I know what I'm going to talk about isn't just unique to this industry, but there are so many things that incentive travel, meetings and conferences touch on. But the one thing that comes to mind for me, if a young person or anyone wanting to get into this industry wanted to add to their portfolio, it would be project management certification or project management skills. Because, what you're executing when you execute an incentive program or a conference or a meeting, it's a project. And no project is the same. Mm-hmm. But what's going to help you execute that job, let you sleep at night and not have you go crazy, is if you document all of the tasks, the milestones, the responsibilities, dates. And so to me, that's like a Bible, because if you have software that enables you to do that, there's no excuse to forgetting something, because you've documented, you get reminded. It's just a great tool. So I would definitely say project management skills is very, very important.
To your point, in 20 years of running projects in over 50 countries, there's actually one commonality, is that nothing ever happened the way it was planned. There's always something that's happening. And to your point of being organized and having that documented, it helps you react quicker and see clearly what are the different options.
That's right. And project management doesn't mean an Excel spreadsheet. It means, I guess if that's all you have, it's better than nothing. Right. But project management is really like a database, being able to automate your project, because there's many people involved in a project. It's not just you. And so being able to kind of get it out of your head that this person is responsible for this and this person's responsible for that, and the client's got to give me this, and these are the dates, is to me critical.
Absolutely. And just as a quick example of automation, before software, if something changed, you need to inform and validate with the client. You need to inform your own team. You need to inform all the vendors, the DMC, the hotel, transportation, everyone. Today, you do one modification and you can do the setup that everybody's informed immediately.
That's exactly true. so, as we talked about, I would say project management is number one, at least from an operations perspective, which is where I come from. If you're getting into sales, then CRMs are amazing, and they're the best way to be able to follow up on sales potentials, leads, document opportunities, follow the sales cycle, and I think that's also a great tool when you're trying to generate more sales. I mean, to me, automation, especially when you're a small company, Meeting Escrow is not huge, and so the ability to use these tools really helps you. It allows you to perform as if you're a big company, and the CRM is one, project management's another, but there's obviously accounting software, but there's also MailChimp related softwares, campaigns, and different tools, forms. I mean, I honestly could do this entire interview and talk all about the packages and the software and the project management systems that are out there to make an individual more efficient. And I don't know about where you're from, but we are starting to hear a lot more on the radio about the 4-day work week. And it's about how can you be efficient in 4 days instead of 5. And I recognize that this is potentially industry specific, it's role specific, but if you can take some of your processes and automate them, then maybe a 4-day work week is realistic.
Well, to answer your question, I am originally, although now became American last year, but originally from Belgium, which has a lot of similarities with Canada. We can talk about the positive and the negatives, but for those who are listening now, can you maybe suggest 2-3 tools to look at for project management, 2-3 tools you recommend for CRM, and anything else in between in terms of being more efficient, being more organized, and having actually more time for yourself?
So with the question that you're asking, so I give you a name?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I can tell you.
This is not like a large network. We cannot pronounce name because of contract or whatever. So go ahead. Go ahead.
So I preach a lot about the company Zoho. Yep. And so Zoho allows you to buy one subscription, and it allows you to have all the components or all the platforms underneath. So there's Zoho Project, Zoho CRM, Zoho Forms, Zoho Books,
Zoho Expenses.
Like it's everything. Yeah. And so although I know about Microsoft Project, there's a whole bunch of different companies and softwares out there. But something that I would recommend, especially since our industry is made up of a lot of either small third-party agencies or independent planners who need to kind of do it all. To me, and often the finances can be stretched, you can get everything in one roof under the Zoho platform.
Awesome. Now, thanks to you, I can go and ask them for a sponsorship for the podcast. That's great.
Yeah, there you go.
No, in all fairness, I think it's a great tool indeed. For those who are looking, maybe not having something at once, but start with the project management or with the CRM. You mentioned MailChimp. Any other suggestions?
Well, I guess it depends if you're working with, independently or if you're working in a small team. Forms is fantastic because you complete everything that you need as a request. And once you hit submit, it goes to approver 1 and then approver 2 and approver 3. And then you have sort of a documentation trail for things that need to get done. I mentioned project management. Campaigns is fabulous as far as email campaigns and marketing. The one thing I will say is the great thing about Zoho. Well, it's like a buffet. It costs you less to buy the entire Zoho platform than it does to buy one component. It's like the analogy of buffet versus a la carte, right?
Yeah. And it can even manage your team expenses that it can submit there or track the hours and everything. So
exactly, like with the Zoho Books and everything. So there you go.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Liz. Now, before we end this conversation, I always like to look a little bit into the future, what's going to happen. Today, it's May 2022. How do you see the incentive world as president of site, but also being in this industry with what you do? How do you see the change into the incentive world with cooperation coming back to it? Do you think it's going to go back quickly to everybody's talking about the same level at 2019 in terms of experiences, trends, destination that people are looking at? What do you see that we should be aware of?
So I think I can weigh in here because I read a lot of industry publications, and what I'm seeing lately, and I've seen it numerous times, and also I just came back from the Site Global Conference in Ireland last week. Yep. And what I'm reading is that 2023 is coming back to the 2019 levels. And because I'm reading it numerous times. And so I feel strongly about that is actually going to happen. And, just from what I saw in Ireland, where 450 event planning's incentive travel professionals got together, that seems to be the consensus. And in Meeting Escrow, there could be always, and there will be always another curveball, right? Whether it's, it may not be COVID, but it could be something else. But I think what COVID taught us is that we are now armed with all the risk management tools that we need in order to not halt, but to move on and to continue with these tools. So I think that is, I think that's really positive, and I think that's what's going to, that's what's going to happen.
That's very encouraging. Thank you for sharing that. My last question was listening to you. When is the industry going to accept the first incentive payment in cryptocurrency?
That's a great question. Well, I'm not sure when that is, but I'm sure things happen a lot faster than we expected. So it's probably sooner than later, but it's an excellent question.
Got it. Liz, thank you very much for your time. And I look forward to seeing you live in the near future.
Thank you for the opportunity. Have a great day, Eric.
Thank you, Liz, for sharing those great insights. And once again, if I would have been able to use this type of services when I had my own corporate event agency, that would have made things a little easier. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to connect with me, please follow me on LinkedIn or join my Facebook group, www.eventbusinessformula.com/group. And if you had any value with this episode, please share it with your network. Thank you. Bye-bye.